Now, if in fact Jesus was flesh and blood, which the defense has acknowledged that he was, then simply by virtue of the human anatomy, this simply cannot occur. Again, if we're to believe Defense Exhibit 1, we simply cannot ignore that there has been, in this book, the sanctioning of marriage. And in this book, the sanctity of procreation. And it talks about how that happens. And we know how that happens. You have a man and you have a woman. You don't have two men, you don't have two women. You have a man and a woman who marry, and they enter into a sexual relationship, and at some point eggs gather, they fertilize, and then you have conception in most cases. That is how people are born. For us to actually, for the defense, to actually think we can buy the story that a virgin all of a sudden became impregnated without Joseph, her husband, having anything to do with it, is totally absurd. I mean, I'm not sure who the defense thinks he's talking to. I know we're in West Virginia, but we're not that back hill West Virginians, are we? I mean, we have some level of intelligence about ourselves. For him to believe that we can accept that is simply beyond my comprehension, and hopefully is beyond yours. In fact, as we grow older, hopefully we grow wiser. And we come to realize that all the things that we were told do not necessarily exist. For example, did your parents ever tell you there was an Easter Bunny? Did your parents ever tell you that there was a tooth fairy? Did your parents ever tell you there was a Santa Claus? Your parents wouldn't lie to you, would they? No. But they told you those things and you believed them until you got old enough to find out different, didn't you? My point simply is that at some point in time you realized, you discovered that there wasn't some little jolly fat man with a white beard in a red suit that was leaving things under a Christmas tree for you. Even though your parents and grandparents told you that that is how things happen. The truth of the matter is we've been brainwashed to basically believe most anything that we've been told by our ancestors, and we've been told don't ask too many questions. So I'm sure that there's many people on this jury that's seen the movie Miracle on 34th Street. You remember the little movie with Natalie Wood in it as a little girl? And it talked about a fellow that was by the name of Kris Kringle. And he went to work for Macy's department store in New York. And he claimed that he was Santa Claus. And he said, yeah, I am that one. And what did they do? They thought he was a lunatic. They put him in an asylum. They put him on trial. And what happened at the end? Remember, everybody likes a happy ending. In order to prove Kris Kringle was good old St. Nick, they had the Postal Service bring in the courtroom several bags of letters, dump them on the judge's desk, and all of a sudden the judge decided, well, there must be a Santa Claus. Now, how many people in here today really believe there's a Santa Claus? Just because it came true in the movies, we know differently, don't we? Well, let's try and move it forward to modernization. Remember a few years ago, the greatest Ponzi scheme that ever took place, Bernie Madoff. Nearly $100 billion of people's hard-earned money was taken, was invested, and was gone. Because they believed Bernie Madoff when he said, I can take your money and I can get a greater return on investment than if you put it somewhere else. And they believed him. But just because he told them that, did that make it true? Well, certainly not. People lost their retirements, they lost homes, they lost jobs, they lost everything. People killed themselves over that because somebody told them something that wasn't true. So you have to come to the realization that with all of these things that happened, the Enrons, the WorldComs of the world, when they went down, you even had an accounting firm, Anderson accounting firm, who signed off on it, who kept their books for them, and said, yes, everything's fine, the money's okay, keep right on clicking away, because they were in on it with them. Now, anytime you see where an accounting firm has done an audit, you'll see this little disclaimer at the bottom that will say, this audit is a reflection of the records that was provided to us by employer XYZ. So they're making sure they're not going to be caught up in any type of legal ramifications in the event something was falsely presented to them. What about the stock market crash of 2008? I mean, we can remember that, can't we? A lot of us lost 401ks. Great recession when Wall Street crashed. I mean, the stock market took a plunge, was down in the 7,000. All the financial institutions that was too big to fail, AIG, Merrill Lynch, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, all of them, overnight, boom, they're down. Nobody thought it could happen because we believed the government. We believed it couldn't happen. We're a people that believe what we're told and we don't question it. Well, what ended up happening? Well, we saw what happened. We were lied to. People will lie to you. You know, people will lie. And unfortunately, all you have is Defense Counsel Miller's account. You don't have, all you have is hearsay evidence in this trial. Hearsay evidence. You know that's not even admissible in a court of law, and yet that's what he's basing it on. Well, even our government did not want to admit that we were in a recession. Now it's called the Great Recession that started in 2008. They were 2 years before they ever even admitted that we were in a recession. Now there can just simply be no doubt that back 2,000 years ago, the Pharisees had to be the smartest people around. They had the money, they had the education, they were undoubtedly the most educated civilization around. The Gentiles were just the opposite. They didn't have money, so they were the least educated. So now, who are you going to likely believe? People who have an education or people who don't have an education? I mean, who do we listen to now? Do you come to me for financial advice, or do you go to Smith Barney to get financial advice? Well, you go to who you believe can head you in the right direction. Well, unfortunately, the Gentiles chose to want to believe, who were an unlearned people with little to no education, the poorest of the civilization. They decided that they would trust in someone who was going to come and deliver them from bondage. Certainly over the centuries, one would hope we've advanced beyond simply believing something because someone says it's so. We're a demanding generation. We should demand proof. We have a right to demand proof. And the defense has just simply failed to present anything more to you than a myth or a fairy tale like Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy or anything else. If you buy this, you must recognize something. There have been numerous books written about numerous religious figures. Why would we believe this one? Defense counsel says it's the inspired Word of God. Can he prove that? I mean, he presented nobody to testify to that. He just said it. So do we believe Defense Counsel Miller about that? Yesterday, it was talked about this Jesus had an opportunity to answer some very important questions. They took him before the Sanhedrin court and they said, "Are you the Son of God?" Jesus would not say he was the Son of God. He said, "Ye say that I am." They took him before Pilate. Pilate said, "Are you the Son of God?" Jesus would not say, "I am the Son of God." He said, "They say that I am." They took him before Herod. Herod was really interested in seeing him, because remember, Herod had hunted for him. Herod wanted to see all these miracles he had heard about. Herod questioned him, man. He drilled him. He asked him, "You the Son of God?" Jesus would not answer him. Why wouldn't he? There was his opportunity to proclaim, "I'm the Son of God."